Without wanting to take over any more of your time, I'm going to hand over to Ronaldo, and you can introduce your panelists. And I will be around the place if you need a hand, and I'll keep an eye on the Q&As. For those of you watching, please add any questions that you have for the panelists into the Q&A section here in Zoom. And if you see a question you like, please upvote it. Ronaldo, would you like me to get out of your way?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. Great. Yeah, welcome to this amazing panel. I can tell you an interesting hour is waiting for you. In the dry run, we had a lot of fun, and I hope we can have as much fun and interesting insights in this hour too. Our panel has amazing guests. I start with Marina Ilari. Marina is an ATA certified translator and second generation CEO of Terra Translations, a company based in Latin America and the United States. Then we have, almost out of the picture, Francois Jacquin, a financial translator by trade and part-time university lecturer. Francois is the CEO of Versacom, Canada's premier locally owned LSP with over 250 in-house linguists and project managers. Then we have Corey Lindahl. He has many years globalization experience from the software and localization industry in companies such as Oracle and PeopleSoft. In 2008, he started Venga Global, and since October 21, he's now part of the Argus multilingual group. And we need to talk about that, of course. Corey grew up in Sweden, then 10 years in the UK before relocating to the US to join the IT boom in Silicon Valley. In 2019, he moved back to Europe and now lives in lovely London. I'm the founder and managing partner of Supertext, a premier LSP focusing on creative translation, transcreation, and multilingual copywriting. Yeah, let's dive in. What we want to discuss here is that the big LSPs are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and even bigger. And how do we as smaller and medium LSPs stand a chance and compete in this industry against players which have more locations, more salespeople, more project managers, more linguists, more specialists, more of everything? So Marina, I start with you. How do we compete?
Well, more does not equal better. So I do think as smaller LSPs, what we can offer is a quality customer service, right? A VIP type of service, like providing a dedicated account manager, a dedicated project manager that will stay with the client long term and not rotate. This provides consistency in the relationship with the client, but also in the quality of the work that we do. We can safeguard the client's products, brand style and tone throughout the year. So I think that's really, really important. And again, quality, more does not mean better, in my opinion.
I see. Francois, do you agree?
Absolutely. I think it's all about what clients are looking for, and ultimately trust. And this is something I believe we'll come back to. Trust is achieved through capacity, responsiveness. It is achieved through breadth of services, but also sometimes more so. It's achieved through quality of service, attention to detail, linguistic accuracy, and ultimately also specialization, which we'll touch upon, I'm sure. So yes, absolutely quality, and we can definitely do some trouble out there still for larger LSPs. Definitely, we can definitely have an impact by focusing on what makes us special, really.
Yeah. Corey, so do you think, in this industry, like looking in 5 years, is there still a chance, or is there, an opportunity for smaller, bigger LSPs? Yeah, against the bigger,
I think there will be some changes going forward. I think technology will play perhaps a more important part in how we work as companies. And I think if you go back a little bit, if you buy a laptop and then you're a business, then suddenly you can translate. so it's very easy to get started in the language industry, but I think going forward now, I think you will need more investment in technology. I think that will make it a little bit more difficult to get in there. But I think if you look at many industries where you've had consolidation, we've also seen that once you get too big, then something splits off from the big one, and then that becomes a specialist. And I think that's what Francois was talking about, and we spoke about when we had a dry run. For Venga, when we started, that's exactly what we did. Now, there was another reason why I did that. I didn't actually know translation, so I had to focus on something I did know, and that was the software industry. So we became really focused on and understood exactly how our clients work. And then fortunately, I hired much smarter people than I am, who are very good at translation, had a lot of experience, but then we could come in and we could understand how they work, and we could also apply the translation stuff so that we weren't too, we didn't use too many fancy translation words, so the client can actually understand what we're talking about. And I think that's what Francois was talking about as well. You know, you build that trust that then enables you to compete with many of the larger companies. One more thing, and then I'll hand back.
Shoot.
The other one I think that is important is that, you know, you get $1 million contract, then that's a big thing. And we will look after that $1 million or $2 million or 500,000 contract. And we will give them a lot of love and attention. If you have $1 million contract in a really large company, some of the super agencies, you're just a number, and you will be handled by a project manager, a good project manager. But in our case, many people will listen. You know, you need something changed, we'll change, we'll figure it out, we'll do it. So we're much more agile and nimble, I think, than some of the super agencies.
Ronaldo, if I may, this is a tremendous point. I mean, agility, I know it's a bit of a buzzword, and it's been used more than its share, but it's super important. Smaller, more focused LSPs can prove more responsive in a variety of ways, and not just because we actually dedicate people to our accounts and treat clients with more care, but we can also tailor the technology to our clients' needs. This has happened to us recently, and you could think that, you know, because of their larger, all-encompassing systems, they can really tackle pretty much everything, but they actually lack the agility sometimes to respond precisely to a need, to a requirement, and we have that possibility. So in addition to having a team that's agile and responsive and focused and cares, well, we have this ability to move quickly, and we've been actually surprised to be able to do better than larger LSPs in technology department recently. I just wanted to add that. So agility, I think, is a tremendous asset.
Exactly, being flexible, agile. Yeah, and then, I mean, also, I mean, we need to touch the topic of like differentiation, like how can we compete and be known as a specialist? I mean, competing against the big ones on a large contract, on a large RFP is something, but, you know, to get invited to those RFPs, how do we pitch ourselves? How like make ourselves a name for something? I know, like from our example, when we started, you know, getting traction in the translation agency, we always promoted ourselves as like, we are not a translation agency. We came from copywriting and then accidentally came into a translation because clients just ask, okay, can you add the same quality to apply it to other languages? And so like we added more and more languages, and coming with that standpoint always gave us kind of like a differentiator. So for you, Marina, what was the differentiator for you? Or what was a successful argument?
Well, for me personally, it's all about the people, right? So someone the other day told me, we don't manage translation, we manage people. And in a way, it's true. Like, I really believe that, you know, relationships that are built in trust and transparency are extremely important in our line of work, because, yeah, this people-centric view, to me, touches everyone who interacts with your company, starting with the translators. If you form long-lasting relationships with them and have their trust because you compensate them well and in time, and you're going to be offering what many other companies are not able to offer, which is a very solid, dedicated linguistic team, right? Then with your employees, are you providing a positive culture for your team where they want to stick around and they advocate for your company? And then finally, the clients. I mean, are you providing a VIP experience for them where they feel that you have their best interest at heart always? So that has been sort of my company's strategy. We started as a family-owned business where our first few hires were within our circle of family and friends. And now we have grown to be one of the top companies in Latin America. But we never lost sight of this, like this family-oriented type of culture. And I believe it's a special factor that has allowed us to grow.
Also, that's a point what you made too, like, giving a VIP experience, or just like, to be honest, if you're the number 10 at TransPerfect and you talk to a client, maybe it's a different relationship than when you, as the CEO, kick in,
Exactly.
Absolutely. And if we can go a little bit into semantics, because we are, after all, in translation. The question is also, are you an all-out agency or are you a professional firm? And I think it's an important distinction we need to make. Are you an intermediary or an actual specialist? And of course, we all have freelancers, we all have partners, outside partners. Therein lies, the capacity and so forth, and the flexibility. But are you a specialist? Do you actually do the work yourself? And I think a lot of clients are looking for that confidence. They're looking they want to deal with someone who actually knows how things are done and who actually can do it themselves. They don't want to be sold to anymore. And I think that's something we can play on a great deal when we're a smaller LSP. We can project that image very accurately. Versacom, if I can speak from my own experience, is now large enough to be both a boutique LSP and a one-stop shop in a certain way. So therein lies a challenge. And I know, Rinaldo, you're thinking about that yourself.
Yes.
We talked about branching out from your specialty and perhaps risking losing that specialty that made you famous, if you will, and actually made you a success, and diluting it. But this is part of what clients are looking for, and it's important to focus on that. They want to know that they're dealing with someone who will not just put them in touch with someone. You will perform the work, and you know what you're doing, right? So I think we could talk about that, perhaps duality between boutique and one-stop shop, because I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, let's do that. I think it comes down to trust again, like building a relationship that's like, the foundation is really trust. But what you just said, I found it really interesting. So we, SuperTax, we were in the very same position. Growing an LSP, I think it goes through stages. You start out with a specialty, people know you for something you do really well, or you stand out. That can be a technology, a service, or just you're more locally present. And then you grow and you get in touch with clients who have, more needs than just like in our case, we all mostly started with like copywriting or rewriting of websites, did a few languages. And then of course the website had videos in it. So you're getting into video localization, or there was a legal contract to translate and all that. And so you need to widen the services. And the question is like, do you want to do this? Would you lose your profile? Cora, you had a pretty a great opinion.
Well, I don't know. I think you have to be careful though, because they're also they're thinking about relocating someone, so they need to move the boxes and the furniture, and then they need lunch. And I mean, where do you stop? I mean,
exactly.
You're going to offer every service under the sun. I think if I went into some specialist shop that I needed help from, and they suddenly did everything, I'd start to wonder if they actually do anything well. So I do think you need to be careful. And what we've done, for example, we focused on, like I said, the high-tech industry, and we did one portion of that. We did a lot of HR tech, which is what I came out of. And then it was easier then to get into fintech and some other areas with startups and stuff like that. There are similar needs. And we built up an expertise that we could explain to people. And also we could do a good job. And I think that's really important, that you stay fairly true to yourself. It's a really crap example, but in the pandemic now, which has not been good for my stomach, we ordered in food more than we normally would. And then you ordered once and it's not that good, but then you think, well, we try it again, you know, a month later, and you order it again. And then if it's bad every time, you stop. And I think that's very true for what we do as well. If we deliver bad quality once, if there's a bit of trust, then fine, we continue. But if we keep doing that, then people would just walk away. And I think, Marina, you made a really good point about the family, because it goes all the way. The translators we work with, the technology partners that we have, all these different people, all the way to the clients and the people that work in the company. That is so important, because it's like that cheesy program with the weakest link, you know, when they had a quiz. But it is the weakest link. And we really want to make sure that, and I know I'm getting off on a tangent a bit here, but you know, we need to make sure that we focus on stuff that we know. So that's the specialization. Then the other part is that we need to deliver quality product. And we only do that if we have a strong chain of people we work with. And
that's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think the way to do that, and then I'll hand back again, but the way we do that is that we treat people with respect. And that goes all the way. Like if we expect our translators, for example, to be there when we need them, well, then we better be there when they need us. Same with staff, colleagues, people you work with and all that. And then you build that also with your customers, so that you have that kind of chain and flow of respect that goes back and forth.
Great. Yeah, I can rely on the food part. I had so many donuts here in LA. That's always a better one. But you know, how do you counter the argument of, like, you know, there is a reason why this whole M&A business is so strong now. You know, the big ones, they just buy all the boutiques, and then I can present themselves as a group of specialists. You know, they have a specialist for every part, you know, a legal department, health department, gaming, whatever you want, you know, they can just do it out of one hand. And, you know, mirror principle, the big clients, they want, you know, maybe also a big provider. How do we face that, Marina? Do you have a recipe?
Well, that's a super good question. I mean, once you've there's value in specialty, and but there's the perception of limited services or competence that is linked to specialization. So how do you fight that, right? And you're right. By, you know, they're smart. The larger LSPs are managed by smart people, so they are countering that problem by, you know, segmenting, if I may say so, and actually creating the image of you know, several specialties and several segments. I think there's a geographical angle also that's important. It's important to us anyway. Again, I speak from my own experience, but I think when you and we work mostly in the Canadian market, and it's a special market in its own, and so there's that added edge that we have also, is that knowing our market extremely deeply. And then I've seen a trend in, and we could talk about trends in procurement, because that's a very interesting topic in itself, but I've seen that there's a trend toward looking for local support among large clients. So they are open to fragmenting the translation business or the localization business per region, and they're thus getting more higher quality service and better service locally in each of their target markets. We see that as a trend. I don't know if you guys have seen the same thing, but this is something we can actually thrive on, of course, because we are some of us known as local specialists in some ways as well. So there's the specialty in the subject matter, but there's in financial and finance and so forth, but there's also the geographical and local aspect to it. I don't know if you guys have the same.
Marina, you can talk to that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, specialization, big part of building that rapport with the client. Usually clients that are looking for a specific, like, language expertise or a specific vertical expertise, right? So I think that's why it's so important as a company, especially as a small, medium-sized company, that you're able to provide that niche specialized service, whether maybe in a language pair, in a geographical area, in a certain vertical. For example, my company, we have a strong specialization in Spanish. We have a large in-house Spanish linguistic team. And a separate division of my company specializes in gaming, and we do only that. So very niche, and clients usually that reach out are because they're looking specifically for either of those things.
I want to just bring in something that Michael Heffer wrote in the Q&A, and he says, like, if you can't beat them, join them. What do you say to that? So I can say, like, there is a certain pride, you know, being an entrepreneur or being independent. You know, if you get a lot of like money is involved in this industry more and more, but with money comes responsibility. You know, you would like report to people who are more interested in profits and all that, or you get like join a bigger LSP, and then maybe you are under a roof and not, you know, that free anymore. Corey, you just went through this M&A thing, and you decided after so many years to partner up.
Yeah, you know, well, it's relatively easy for me. I don't know if you know Kimon, but he started Argos many years ago, and I've known him for many years, and we've actually been exchanging information and ideas and talked about this for a long time. So for me, this change is a good change, and what's interesting is that we don't actually have any external capital that has a say. So like we don't have a private equity, for example, in here that is telling us that no, actually translation is not the way to go. Mopeds is what you should be doing. Let's build some mopeds. Donuts. So that's a good thing. But enough about us in particular. Why would you strive for growth? And you can have organic growth, and we've had great organic growth. But you know, I'm at an advanced stage as well. So, you know, for me to become $1 billion probably be another 100 years or something. So we're not going to do that, because I want to be able to relax and retire and all that stuff. So if you don't only do organic, then you do M&A. That's the way to grow. So why do you want to grow? And to me, growth has been a huge focus for what we've been doing all along. And that's really so that you can afford to hire smart people, which is essential. When I started, you get to work with interesting clients. You can offer career paths within the company. You have enough money so you can spend money on technology development in-house, but also to buy kind of clever solutions and stuff like that. So that is important. Now, question is, how far do you want to grow? And that I have no good answer to. In my case, what I decided was that I think I've been decent in running this company and growing it to a certain point. But then I think I've also reached a point where I've been doing this every day for many years now, in my case, 13 years. And I think it was time to change. And the change for me would have been to either hire someone from the outside or promote someone from the inside. Or in this case, what I chose was to join forces with another company that has very similar outlook on life. And they already had an amazing CEO who has all the energy, and the management team can then take it to the next level. I think that's something that we can all kind of, these are all different options that we have.
Exactly. Yes. Join them. The question is really, it's all about personal circumstances as well. I mean, where you're at personally, what you want to do. And then once you find your partner and there's a culture match, it can be, you know, happiness, total happiness. I mean, so we don't have, I think, anything against M&A per se, but the fit has to be good. For us, we feel we still have a lot to do and a lot to bring to the table, a lot of value. And and for us, growth is about stability and strength and value. And that comes through diversity of clientele and services in some ways. So this is where we're at in terms of a company, but that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities out there. It's a matter of, you know, finding, I think, the right partner. So I think Ari, you've got a wonderful summary of your situation. I think it makes perfect sense. But you know, it depends on what you want to do, really, personally as well, right?
I think for me, Hollywood is calling. I mean, George Clooney, really.
Watch out.
Yesterday's, yeah, exactly. But on a slightly more serious note, I think it's important to remember that we need, or having the super agencies is not a bad thing. It's like they've brought so much attention to translation, and also the MT, for example. Okay, it's annoying when you meet a client and they think that you can just send everything to MT and somehow everything would be fantastic. But all of this brings our industry more to the forefront, and I think that's something we should embrace. I'm thinking about, once again, I'm really good at bad examples, but Tesla.
Go.
Like without Tesla, would we have all these other electric cars? Maybe not. And I think it could be the same with the TransPerfect, $1 billion. If that's true, you get newspaper writing about it, and suddenly my parents ask about, so what is it you do again? And I think that's good.
I think so too. I admire the TransPerfect story, you know, like the two of them, and then growing out of a dorm room and all that. I think that I have like entrepreneurial respect for that, and it's awesome. And I think everyone who starts out in the translation industry will come across this story. And I mean, all of us, I mean, started alone or with like 2 or 3 partners and go through that journey. And sometimes it's, you know, we reach the stars, and sometimes you're just among the stars.
Now, so, Ronaldo, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah, sure.
Is that your business partner standing behind you? Because I think we're all wondering.
Yes, yes, it is. Michael is my business partner. Exactly. Yeah. So if you're someone in the localization industry and sees this panel now and thinks about, you know, I want to start my own shop, what would be your advice? I mean, does it make sense in this industry still? And what should you do to get some traction? Marina.
The first thing that comes to mind is don't try to replicate what other companies are already doing. So my advice would be to follow your own vision, like your own mission, you know, which would be unique to you and your team. And, you know, it could be different from trying to make it to the top ranking. It could be something else. So I would focus on that.
Absolutely. Know your domain, know your field, know your vertical. Focus on that, what you're good at. And this value that clients will see in your services is the same value that acquisition or companies looking to acquire will see in you as well. You know, this is the value you're bringing to everyone. So focus on that specialty, and there is plenty of space. The market is still very fragmented. I think it's healthy that it's consolidating in some ways. But as well, there's so much opportunity. There's never been so much to translate, by the way. Technology did make things more efficient, did put a dent, I would say, but there is so much to do and so much to bring to the table. So definitely a lot of space. Get into it, and there's something you can make a difference. Definitely focus on what you know and what you do best, and you'll be able to you'll be popular. You'll find your public.
And like Kara said, surround yourself with smart people.
Yeah,
absolutely. Smarter than you, if possible.
That's crucial. But something else. So there's a saying that no company goes bankrupt because of losses. It's because of cash flow. And cash flow is really important. Make sure that, like when you get we got a $1 million contract very early on, and it was fantastic. That was also the same day I got an email from the bank saying we're canceling your credit line because the back office got some numbers wrong or whatever. There's nothing wrong with going to a client and saying, you know, we need a third up front, a third in the middle, and a third at the end. Because you need to be able to pay the people that work for you, be it staff or translators, it's one thing, you can have crazy ideas and initiatives and people work late and they'll be okay with that. If you don't get your paycheck, that's not good. And it's the same with working with freelancers. They need to be paid on time and all of that. So keep an eye on the cash and make sure you plan for it. And if you get a big contract, then obviously they like you. So go and talk to them because they have more money. You shouldn't just wait for them to pay you in 60 days after you've invoiced, because then that could, create havoc
Absolutely.
with your finances.
And clients understand this. The larger financial institutions will actually audit your own results, right? So they will look for stability and strength in your results, and they want diversity as well. They don't want a fragile supplier, right? So it's all part of building something solid. So that's a very good point, Kari.
I think one more thing though. It's the Renato thing. It's the Renato thing. What's the first thing you do when you start a company? Get a customer, number one. What's the second thing you do? You get customer, number two. What's the third one? That's the main focus. You'd always figure out how to do the back end, but if you don't have the customers and clients.
Very good point. I don't think it makes sense to also learn to say no, I think if you are just driven by opportunities, and you are, a nice guy, you go to a conference, you connect to all these localization people, and they think this is an interesting guy, and invite you to the RFP and whatever, and then it turns out, it's like a very industry that you haven't been translated for ever, or it's like gaming that you haven't been doing before. And I think you can get lost and lose a lot of profile if you just take the opportunities that come along. And they come along. I think it's very hard sometimes to also say, no, that's not our thing. That's like, doesn't make sense. Have you ever said no, Marina?
Definitely. Yeah, we actually have said no. When we just, you want to work also with clients that are aligned with what you have to offer and what you're specialized in and what you can do great, right? We always, and also align culturally and, the same values also. That's really important to us too. When we find that alignment, it's like, we always say it's like magic. It's like we find our unicorn clients and we really treasure them. But yeah, I have said no when it just, the opportunity didn't align with what we could do and what we knew we could do really well.
And Ronaldo, there's another reason why I like larger LSPs or admire them, or I would say admire them for that, but they are some of them tremendous sales success that we can learn from a great deal. And you mentioned TransPerfect, which I think is a stellar example of successful sales, and that we need to learn from. But I also like larger LSPs because they fail and they provide poor service, and they actually will send us great clients, and this happens a lot. This happens a lot. Disappointed clients come in and say, well, I've tried the discount solution, I've tried the greater value service, if you will, and the all-encompassing services. It is not what I want. I've had this failure, and now I need to have someone who actually knows what they're doing, do the work, So without being too mean here and too negative, this is also an angle you can take, and it's a successful one, really. So we've had what I call in French, clients sinistrés. They've been through a fire and they need rescuing, and we're here for that.
That's good to know, Francois, that you rescue us. It's great. Yeah, that's very cool. I think let's go back to one of the compliance things that you mentioned. I think that's very interesting. With some of the RFPs, you get this checklist, and then you need this ISO certificate. You need like this terminology tool. You need so many things. And for a smaller LSP, it's really hard to check all the boxes. Sometimes you just don't have the legal department, or you just haven't been through all these certifications, or you don't have your own tech and you work with MemSource or another TMS and don't have the ability to like customize portals or whatever. What to do then, Kari?
We say no.
Exactly.
We talked about this.
Exactly. Yeah.
We haven't we have done a few RFPs, and we might be doing more now and all that, but in general, I think you're wasting your time if you're going for a big RFP where you just adding number and adding, or what I mean is that they need 7 to pick from because that's what procurement said. They already have the one they want to pick. And then you're just adding on and you're spending, days and weeks and putting stuff together and trying to avoid answering some of the questions if you don't have that part. You're going to lose it anyway. So why are you wasting your time? I think I don't think RFP is the way to go. I think what we did, for example, because we knew exactly which market we wanted to focus on. So we went to those type of conferences, and we've been going for years. So the clients that we work with now, that I think it took 3 years or something before we started working with them. And it wasn't necessarily that they were huge companies. It was that it was too early for them. They were like Series B, somewhere in there. So they were more focusing on their home market. But once you get to Series C, many of the venture capital force people into actually going overseas, and suddenly, just because someone had once watched the French movie doesn't mean that they can translate everything into French, and it becomes a problem. And then, oh yeah, we met these guys, and then you start working with them. I think that's what we've seen. So I wouldn't spend too much time on the RFPs. It's once you get to a certain size, then I think you can start doing that.
Yeah, you need to be very selective in terms of RFPs, I think, and you have the right to say no, and you should select your clients, really. Even though that sounds, arrogant, you can choose your clients and you can focus on the ones you want. It's interesting, Kari, that you touched the RFP process, because I think in our dry run, we talked about getting in there prior to the actual RFP, right? And when you establish yourself as a specialist and an authority in your field, clients will actually come to you to design the RFP, or they will RFI, they will request information. And there you have an opportunity to influence the way they will shape their business plan. And you can actually, actually influence them into not necessarily going into your direction specifically, but actually making it as though, it will better respond to their needs. And I think that's when you achieve that, it's a great success. You get that confidence from the client as well, that you're an expert and you're sort of disinterested, if you will. You're doing it neutrally, but at the same time you are helping your chances. So getting in there prior to the actual RFP is a great place to be.
Actually, no, you go ahead. And
I just wanted to add that another way to go about it with these bigger RFPs is partnering with other teams or other companies to pursue the contract together, so you can complement each other in different areas. We have done that successfully actually in the past. Many companies actually reach out to smaller companies like mine, for example. I'm women-owned, minority-owned, for those set-aside contracts too, so bidding together for those. And we found some success there too. So, you don't always have to do it alone.
Very true.
Yeah, partnering up with other agencies, that can make sense. Kari, you wanted to talk about this.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. One of our clients, and actually this might be something that we should do. So they're in a different industry altogether, but they put together a proactive RFP. So they don't call it an RFP, but they basically put everything into a document about them that has all the stuff that would normally go into an RFP. And by being so comprehensive in the package, many of their customers never go to an RFP because they have it. So they can take that and go to procurement and say, look, this is a solid bid. We have all the information we need. We can move forward. Maybe that's a way of doing it as well, by serving up kind of an answer to every question they might possibly have. And being very open and transparent about what you can and cannot do and all that.
Very true.
Yes, very true. I agree. Yeah, so for the future, like looking at the next 3 to 5 years, what do you think? How will this M&A thing play out, and what is your plan for the next 3 to 5 years? How will you survive in this industry? Shall we do everyone can say something to this?
Who wants to go first?
Who wants to go first? Yeah.
No, I think it's kind of like a summary of what we've been saying before, focusing on technology and focusing on people. And then I will add, focusing also on your mission as a company. I think it's really important to never lose sight of that. Why are you doing what you're doing?
So you did found your mission. What is it?
We would love to bring more diversity to the localization industry. We're very driven because of that. I'm a Women in Games ambassador, one of the chapter managers of Women in Localization. So it drives me and my team to move forward with the company and continue growing.
Very cool. François?
I think it's very hard to say exactly what's going to happen. I mean, who could have predicted what happened in the past 24 months, right? And then the pandemic has had a huge impact on our business. I mean, it made us more popular than ever. And I speak for, again, my current situation. Perhaps in different markets, it played out a little bit differently. But initially, we actually thought, we'd get shut down. We actually thought, initially that we wouldn't be able to operate based on government restrictions and so forth based on the pandemic. And it was completely the opposite. Of course, I've heard about LSPs, actually laying off people preemptively at the beginning of the crisis, where in fact it was super wrong decision to make, right? Because it actually exploded in the other direction. So we're in a state of growth. Actually, we are in a situation where we can actually pick our clients in several instances, and there's a shortage of qualified people as well, right? In our market, it's quite obvious. It's quite painful to find new talent right now, and we need to have a tremendous strength of culture, offer a lot of very good conditions and so forth, and that's not conducive to lowering rates, right? It's actually should go in the other direction, right? So what does the future hold? I think there's tremendous opportunity at the very least in the next 36 months, definitely, or at least in a year and a half, still a lot of very vibrant growth, I think. And I think, clients are talkative now. They're willing to try out new solutions right now, and they are starting over as well. They are booting up, new projects and so forth. So I think it's tremendous time to get in, really, and lots to do. But I'm at a loss to predict exactly what's going to happen in the next few years. I think MT has had an impact. I think it's had a production impact. I think I think there's a maximum that it's gained its maximum potential. I think we're waiting for the next evolution in AI in order to really go forward. I think AI and MT, as they are now, have reached sort of a plateau in terms of the increase of the efficiency we're seeing. That's my personal opinion from the tools we're using, and then we're customized. But I don't want to branch out too much in there, but it's difficult to say what's going to happen, but I think it's exciting, and I think there's tremendous opportunity. I'm absolutely not negative in any way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think also, like, you see a professionalization of localization at bigger companies. They know better what they want. They have better plans. And I think, especially for a smaller shop that specializes in something, to face a team that knows that transcreation is not the same as a creative translation is very helpful. So I think for us that was great, to see that, like, if marketing departments, and you start from scratch explaining, what is the translation process and all that, and I think there's really a big opportunity. I think that will be even more in the future, because companies are getting bigger and even bigger, and they need internal localization departments with a lot of know-how. And then as a specialist, you have the opportunity to dock on. And I think it will probably be harder for very large LSPs, because at a certain point you probably don't want to risk to, you know, bet everything on just one player. So you may want an independent platform and then dock on different LSPs and not get your TMS system from the same guy that like does the whole translations.
Well, so you're mitigating your risk that way, right? So I think it's a smart approach, and you're actually seeing that. Yeah, so I totally agree. Yeah.
Yes. What do you think, Corey? So in 5 years, you're not anymore in the localization business now that you partnered up, or?
So 5 years is so soon. I was going to say, I wrote down lots of stuff here while you were talking. I think one thing that we started out as a remote company almost from day one, because we were lucky enough to sign a fairly large client as client number one. But they told us they had to have people in regions. So we had to have people in Europe, we had to have people in Asia and the Americas. So very quickly we became remote. But now everyone has gone through a period of remote. So I think we're used to that remote, which enables us to hire people in different parts of the world. And I think that's interesting. And I really like what you said about diversity. I believe, having worked in Silicon Valley for a long time, I believe that the strength of Silicon Valley was that they brought in people from many different parts of the world. So I solve a problem this way, but then in my group, there was a person solving it this way. And suddenly you got creativity and new ideas and stuff like that. And we're in an amazing industry to do exactly that. So I'm hoping we're going to see more of that, where you have companies, smaller companies as well, with different people in different from different parts of the world. We also have an opportunity, I think, to spread a massive message to perhaps countries that, and I can't imagine why there would be any country, but wouldn't feel like a woman could be in charge of a company or whatever, or that they have an issue with LGBTQ or anything else. We can spread that message of diversity and inclusion. And I think inclusion is so important, to have everyone being able to have a voice at the table, if you want. But then you talked about future. So these are more philosophical aspects of life. But,
I want to hear it.
Well, I think one of them is PE. You know, if private equity or the money people realize that, no, this is a really bad industry, we don't want to be involved anymore, then that would, of course, impact M&A. I don't see that happening. I think there's an interest, and I think that will remain. Another one is, for me, MT. I think the generation coming now are fine with MT for many parts of documentation, like product documentation, for example. So if it's good enough, and if it's been tailored so that it works on that company's products, then that's great. But then there's a huge set of other content that needs much more. And that's why I think you're in a great place, Ronaldo, with copywriting, original copy. Write original copy for Japan. Why would they want a translation of American selling points? I think
that's a very interesting point. So I can tell you, when we started out, we had only copywriters in our network, you know, like a bunch of 100 copywriters, and most of them didn't even know the second language. And one of the first ideas when we got asked, could you provide the copy in another language, was like, how do we do this? Do we need to hire, like the regular translators now? And this was, we started out 2005. So this is almost 16 years ago. And Google Translate and all that was just like coming up. And so one of the first things we thought about was like, why don't we just take the copywriting, put it through Google Translate, and give that as a base to another copywriter? And I think
brilliant
now it didn't work out then, because like the result was so disturbing. You couldn't use this as a base, and
that sounds, sorry to interrupt there, Ronaldo. That sounds like an absolute
Andrew,
nightmare.
Thanks for coming in.
I just wanted to jump in very quickly, just to give you a heads up. There's about 10 minutes left. We can stretch it out to about 15 minutes. There are a lot of questions that have been coming in. for your panelists. There's one that I want to draw attention to straight up because you have addressed it already. It was the question from Michael Heffer, and she's asked, she was the one who made the comment at the start, if you can't beat them, join them. And she's asked in the chat and in the Q&A, she wants to know a little bit more about how to become a vendor for the large translation agencies. But just to let you know, you've sort of 10, we can stretch it out about 15 minutes. If it would be possible for you to jump into the Q&A part of the panel. And I'm going to get out of your way again. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, Corey, you wanted to finish some points? Take a minute to finish it, and then we will dive into the questions.
No, actually,
okay.
I think the example you gave is exactly right. I have a feeling that content is going to become very important, and original content is going to be very important. And then I think on the other side, we have more structured, or I need to know. And I think there we're going to be more reliant on technology and all that. We can help guide companies on that, but I don't think we're going to see the big product augmentation. Sorry, Francois, you go ahead.
If I may, one last point on technology is that no matter how efficient it becomes, or even if it becomes eventually inventive, which is far from being the case right now, you will still need validation from a human specialist, right? Especially in the legal field, in accounting, in financial. I don't see a future where, anyway, a near future, where clients will entrust, entire translations or localizations without any human involvement in terms of validation of the actual content, or the legal validity of it, and the truthfulness and so forth, and the cultural sensitivity of it. So even in the worst case scenario, in terms of technology development, I don't see that as coming to fruition in our lifetimes, really. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yes, thank you very much, Francois. Yeah, so let's dive into the questions. Dear audience, if you have more questions, just put them down. I'll select a couple that seem interesting. Here's one. What are your suggestions to become a vendor of the larger global translation agency?
And perhaps why would we want to do that? But anyway, you go ahead, guys.
Yes, why? So I can tell, I think we haven't done that much, or it never occurred to really just be an agency that works for other agencies, that works for an agency that has a contract with another agency,
Yeah.
I sent an email once early on to, I won't name the agency, but I didn't get a reply. So I thought, well, that didn't work out. So never again. So that's why I'm not in sales. Okay, you get it. But I think it's a choice.
I think
it's a choice.
Yeah, like specialization, again, specialization in a specific language, region, or vertical will probably make your application stand out. That's what I would say.
I think so, and you have to make sure it's worth it. It's worth your while, right? Because you have this intermediary now. I think it's really a difficult question. I think you do it if you don't have the choice. I'll be honest. I think you can avoid that, but if you do, they will come to you because you are a specialist, probably, or either geographically, perfectly situated and so forth. So I don't have a specific. I think large LSPs have a hard time than we do dealing with internal translation departments. I think when clients actually have internal specialists, localization specialists, and translation specialists, they value more focused LSPs a great deal more, and they actually are able to measure quality. So I think you're in a good position when you have that relationship with an internal translation department. So I think larger LSPs struggle with that. I don't have a specific answer when it comes to focusing on dealing as a supplier to LSPs. I don't have. I personally wouldn't make it a business model at all. Definitely.
Actually, there are some that we work with, and I know some companies that are focusing on a region or a certain language, which are a little bit more difficult to get to. What I would do if I wanted to get into that is to contact those companies, the owners of those companies, and talk to them, because they are not competing in any way. It's a different set of languages.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah. So here we have someone who is not completely sold on smaller is more personal and therefore better concept. I have to agree to a certain degree, you know, like they are humans too at those bigger agencies, you know, and it's also a personal relationship. Corey,
I know. Well, but I think, you know, I met great people in the super agencies and had a lot of fun, but one
And
big
you can hire
difference
them, by the way.
Sorry?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you can hire them, the good ones. But no, I'm not making any judgments on the people who work in different companies. These are all great people, and we're all part of the same industry. But
Yes.
what does make a difference, I think, is that we talked about agile and nimble before. If you go to a really large agency and you want to have a change in something, that has to go through a process, and that might take 3 months. We can do it on the spot, because all the different people are much closer together in a smaller company than in a company with several hundred or 1,000 people or whatever.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, more questions here.
This is the tricky part. You have to read and talk at the same time. It's like
yeah. Interpreting, right? Hey,
Exactly.
Corey, aside from the corporate synergies of your recent merger, how will Venga's clients benefit from turning into Argos ones? Maybe you can generalize that a little bit more. So if you decide to join the M&A game, what's the benefit really for the existing customer base?
Well, the benefit is that they have a fair amount of internal tools. We have a fair amount of internal tools. They have clever people. We have clever people. But it means that you have a broader base of people that you can pick from. So I think that's a benefit. Now, I think the danger is, as you grow, is that you lose that. And suddenly you become that company that takes 3 months to be able to make a decision, because it has to go through committee and all that. And I think that's something that is up to management. How do you keep the entrepreneurial spirit? How do you keep the agility in the company? And I worked for a company called Oracle for many years. And when I left, it was like 140,000 people. But I always felt that it was like a startup. And hats off to some of the people in the company. They kept that going all the time, and it's something that I think you need to dedicate resources to and really keep thinking about, to avoid becoming that stowed old sort of company that doesn't move.
Yes, I have one that may be good for Marina. So do you think that boutique vendors can succeed on the basis of their company's sustainability values? For example, we choose to work with clients who care about the planet as much as we do. Goes up maybe also the diversity argument here.
Yeah.
Do you think that's really a base for clients to make a decision?
I think it could be a base for, I mean, it's certainly not a base for like winning the client, but maybe for the client to reach out to you because they want a more diverse supplier, or they're just aligned with your mission and your values. So as a first like opportunity, so maybe you get in the door, but then you have to prove that you are good at what you do, and that you can actually win that client and that contract. So it can help you in some cases find aligned clients, but it's then you have to demonstrate again that you're able to carry out the work really, really well and in a high quality.
Maybe we can take this as a last one. It's a very general entrepreneurial question. How do you define success? Is it always getting bigger and bigger? Is it to get millions of dollars? I can answer that. No, it's not. I don't think it's all about the money. It's more about the passion, really. I think we just recently got offers to like sell our company for an incredible amount of money and decided to, no, it's just too much fun. It's like we just like doing it. And being independent also, I think, is a very good argument to be free to a certain degree. I mean, you're never free because the customer is basically the one who tells you what to do. But still, how do you feel about it? This, like, is it numbers crushing and growing and getting bigger and bigger?
I think
To me, it's about. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you hate what you do and you're only doing it for the money, then that will come through. And the customers are going to hate you. Your staff is going to hate you. I mean, it's just a losing game. So you have to have that fun in there, even though you care about quality, you have these reports, you care about spreadsheets and all that stuff, but you have to have fun, I think.
Right, and that passion is what makes you a good salesman as well, or a saleswoman. I mean, this is it needs to transpire. It needs to show that you like what you're doing. So I think that's the key. I think there's a great there will be a lot of opportunities to be acquired in the future. So Ronaldo, I think you can put it off as long as you want, and perhaps wait for. So I'm not concerned about that part. I think you need to I'm like you guys. I think you need to love what you do, and as long as you do it, you'll get. To me, success really, if you come back to the definition of success, is really doing a great job and having satisfied or fulfilled employees. Really, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I live for, actually. Feeling that that's the best feeling, of having someone who is really thriving, progressing. The challenge we have, perhaps, in our business is providing increasing opportunities to everyone, right? That could be a challenge. People want to, they want to progress, they want to reach the higher ranks, and sometimes we need, those specialists, we need those first level specialists, and so that could be a challenge. You need to provide them with growth opportunity personally as well. That's what I'm focusing on these days. And when you achieve that, and also you have satisfied customers, that's the definition of success, I think.
Yeah, to me, success is about the legacy too, because the company was started by my mother, and I feel like a big responsibility to continue with this legacy, and the employees as well. That's why I do what I do, for the sake of the team. I don't earn personal glory doesn't call to me at all. It's like a team effort.
It always is, yes. That's a very nice note to end this conversation. It was awesome, fun, guys. It was as much fun as the dry run, I hope, for you too, guys. Thank you very much for participating in this panel. Corey, Francois, Marina, it was really a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you.
And from the outside, I can tell you it was very enjoyable to watch as well. It's great to see so many familiar faces, guys. Hope to see you somewhere else around the world in the not too distant future. Francois, Marina, Cara, and of course Ronaldo, thank you very much for that. That was a fascinating discussion.